In this first slide, we're going to spend a few minutes thinking about the different forms of social welfare programs. When we're talking about social welfare, we're generally referring to health programs, programs having to do with income support, and education programs. But we're going to be focusing mostly on the first. Now, when we talk about social welfare, your chapter in your textbook focuses on the federal involvement, which really didn't start until the 1930s with the first program, Social Security, set up in 1935. And this program was set up as a part of the New Deal package during the Great Depression. And it was really reflecting this new reality in the economy that had shifted away from rural areas and toward cities, and away from farm sustenance and toward wage labor. And this kind of economic situation leaves elderly people without really any means of support. And so Social Security was conceived as a system of providing retirement payments to elderly people who've stopped working. When it was originally passed in 1935, the Democratic Party was the party that passed it, and this is really initiating this new divide between the parties, with the Democrats arguing that the federal government should have a role in the economy and Republicans still being opposed to this. Today, though, we don't see a strong divide between the parties on the question of whether Social Security is a good idea or not. It's fairly widely popular among both Democrats and Republicans. The second major expansion is in the 1960s with Medicare and Medicaid in 1965, aid to families with dependent children, which was an income support for low-income families with children, and aid to low-income schools. And the third major expansion comes really in 2010 with the Affordable Care Act. There is also an additional Medicare Part D in 2003. You can see it's almost every generation there's a new expansion. Now, when we think about the different kinds of programs, we usually draw a distinction between social insurance programs on the one hand and public assistance programs on the other. Your textbook calls these the first type contributory programs because workers contribute to these programs in their paychecks through their working life and then are entitled to them when they retire, for the most part, or when they need them. The programs, these types of programs do not have a means test, which means that all income levels can receive them. And they enjoy, like with Social Security, fairly wide support. Some of the examples of these programs, Social Security is on your pay stub. It's called OASDI, Old Age Survivors Disability Insurance. Also unemployment insurance and Medicare, which on your pay stub may look like, might say HI for hospital insurance. Together, these programs are $1.4 trillion. This was in 2014, so they're higher than that now. And they certainly brought down the elderly poverty rate. The second main type of program is public assistance programs, non-contributory, which means that people don't contribute to these programs that are funded through the general revenue, and they are only given to people with low enough income to receive them. There's a lot less public support for these kinds of programs. They're kind of considered redistribution, but in a sense, all of these programs are redistribution. Social Security is redistributing income in a sense, away from people who don't live as long and toward people who end up living longer. And Medicare, same thing, distributes money away from people who manage to stay healthy their whole life and toward people who end up being quite sick. Some of the examples of public assistance programs include TANF, Temporary Aid to Needy Families, food stamps, subsidized housing, earned income tax credit, and together these are about $220 billion in 2014, substantially less than the other type of program. And two health programs are also public assistance: Medicaid, $300 billion, and insurance subsidies under the Affordable Care Act. These types of programs brought down the child poverty rate, and they also redistributed income away from wealthier states and toward less wealthy states.